Yo, it's Dan, bitch.
Thank you, fellow YouTuber Greaseman26, with that amazing intro. My boy Greaseman26 currently did a video about Attack on Titan on his channel. I will link it in the description. Highly recommend if you're into that kind of stuff. Anyway, nice to be back. DJ Gluestick, back for my video once every year and a half. Hopefully I'll be more consistent. I doubt it, but hopefully. Here to talk about something that's very personal to myself. Old heads versus new school heads. I think old heads are quite toxic, especially in the hip-hop YouTube community, but just in the hip-hop community in general. You never really see too many people coming into the defense of the new school. At least I personally don't see that. So I will talk about that today. So one thing I will definitely start off with is I used to be an old head now. If you don't know what an old head is, basically people in the hip hop community that are into the older stuff but specifically don't like the newer stuff, or at the very least definitely think their era was better. And you don't have to necessarily be old to be an old head. Like I said, I used to be when I was one when I was like 16. I know there were plenty of teenagers, people in their 20s, people in their 30s that are old heads. You didn't just have to grow up in the time to really care for that time. But like I said, I used to be an old head. I used to be very ignorant towards what was out there currently, and I would only bump things from back in the day. So I was into Wu-Tang, Outkast, Gangstar, Biggie, Nas, all that stuff, Run DMC. I was into all that, and I still am. By the way, with the video, by no means am I trying to disrespect anyone from the old school era. I will simply just be making a lot of compliments towards the new school era. But I used to be an old head, and now I'm not. I'm actually a lot happier now that I listen to everything. I can 1 minute be listening to Illmatic, and the next I can listen to some Lil Yachty. It really doesn't matter, and just liking all of hip hop, I don't know, there's just some kind of unity to it that's really nice, really nice. Anyway, I'll start off with one thing which will definitely draw some controversy among people in this community. Personally believe the new school is actually a better time than the old school. The decade of the 2010s going on into the 2020s has been the best time ever for hip hop. And like I said earlier, I don't mean to say that everything out now is better than everything out then. I would be crazy to think that someone like Lil Tecca, no disrespect to any artists I mentioned by the way, that someone like Lil Tecca is better than someone like CL Smooth or Bun B. But either way, I do think the era that we are currently living in is better than what it was back then. I think now there's more variation. You can listen to industrial hip hop, then go to emo trap, then go to trap metal, then go to drumless. Then you can even a lot of people who only like the old school sounds like boom bap. You can still listen to boom bap now. You can put on some Joey Badass or Griselda, or even Nas. Nas is paving his own way through the new school right now, and just that variation, I feel like it's better than what it was back then. And there was still variation back then, but now you can literally listen to Post Malone and then Death Grips, both of which sound absolutely nothing alike. And I don't think that variation really existed in the 80s, 90s, 70s, whatever you consider your old head background to be. I also think there's definitely more creativity now. And obviously the creativity comes from the fact that people before us tried things, and now people can try even more because of those before us. So really, the creativity in the new school comes from the experimentation in the old. And in the new school, we have a lot of experimentation, obviously, and credit to all them. But the relationship between the new and the old doesn't have to be bad, doesn't have to be one and then the other. The old turned into the new. In fact, you ask most people, that every single one will tell you a different answer because no one can pinpoint it. And that's why, because they're one thing. They're not two separate, they're one. And honestly, even though I'm saying all these mores, when it comes to like lyricism and songwriting, because I know that's definitely a major thing a lot of old heads like to discredit the new school for. When it comes to that, both are equal. In the new school, you're going to find the same amount, if not more, of amazing lyricists and amazing songwriters than there were in the 90s or 80s. Now, this is probably going to be the biggest portion of the video. I do have a lot of counter arguments because I'm guilty of going into the YouTube comment section or just arguing with people online or in person about this, because I'm definitely an avid listener of the new school, and I think it deserves a lot more support. One hypocrisy I want to throw out about old heads is I feel most don't really go into anything before like the year 1988. A lot of these lists I see online only ever include 90s and 2000s artists. They say they're old heads, but the oldest they go back is EPMD, Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, NWA. That's about it. I don't see anyone ever. I mean, Run DMC gets mentioned sometimes, but Beastie Boys never. Treacherous 3 never. You'll see Grandmaster Flash and Furious 5 make it on the timeline list. That's only because that's the only people they usually know from the year 1982. But Grandmaster Caz doesn't make it. The Cold Crush Brothers doesn't make it. Fantastic Five doesn't make it. Houdini, Two Live Crew. Speaking of Two Live Crew, another thing a lot of these old heads do when they judge and talk about the 90s, they completely disregard the South. Outkast gets brought up, and a Scarface gets brought up. Ghetto Boys, not really. But like 3 6 Mafia, who's probably the most influential group ever on how hip-hop sounds right now. But maybe next to Kanye West you could put them there. 3 6 Mafia is not mentioned. 8-Ball and MJG are not mentioned. UGK is not mentioned. Two Live Crew is not mentioned. The South is just invisible. A lot of these old heads hate Lil Wayne too. And Lil Wayne should be in any hip-hop head's top 5, top 10. Juvenile, Master P, anything with No Limit and that New Orleans sound just isn't there. Goody Mob, the list just goes on and on. And I feel like most of these guys just view the East and the West. And then obviously Detroit for Eminem, but the East and the West, and that's it. And the South isn't even mentioned in their 80s and 90s journey. Also, the underground hip hop to them isn't, like, from back then, isn't really mentioned either. I mean, sure, people go into Doom, R.I.P. by the way, but I don't see many stuff about Del the Funky Homo Sapien. I don't see stuff about Kool Keith. I don't see stuff about A$AP Rock or LP. Company Flow, Cannibal Ox. All of these underground acts too, who are also insanely lyrical. And this actually kind of surprises me that a lot of these old heads aren't really into them, because there's just so much they're missing. Basically, what I'm trying to prove here is how much their opinion shouldn't matter when it comes to new school stuff, when compared to even the stuff they say they love. They don't mention a lot of it. There's a lot of it they ignore. They're very selective when choosing. And when they say their era is completely better than this one, they don't even know their era. And a lot of things they might say about the South, and this is definitely, you can definitely argue against this, but I can see where they're coming from, is that lyricism isn't the biggest thing, at least from the 90s. And I don't completely agree with this, but I can see where they're coming from, where they say not much is it songwriting as it is delivery or flows. And funnily enough, going to my next point, I personally believe delivery is more important than lyricism. Think about the 70s, when these people never quote the 70s. They never quote what the actual definition of freestyling or MCing or DJing actually is. Never talk about Africa Bambaataa or the Zulu Nation. But when it comes to MCing, the main job of an MC in the origins of hip hop is to move the crowd, is to get them on their feet, get them excited. And delivery is so insanely important. And delivery isn't just the way your voice sounds. When it comes to rhyming, when Eminem or J.I.D. or Denzel Curry spits the fastest fucking verse on the planet, and you know you like it because it sounds so nice. When it comes to rhyming, that's delivery. Lyricism is figurative language, songwriting, stuff like that. Delivery is how it sounds. So when it comes to syllable count and rhyming and all that, that falls under delivery. Hearing Lord Infamous's verse on any 3 6 Mafia song is insane, because his delivery, while lyrically he might not be saying the most, it is orgasmic to hear in your mind. Delivery is what matters overall, and that's why I can defend someone like Playboi Carti or Lil Pump even, which I know a lot of old heads like to quote Lil Pump even though he's not really famous anymore, but Lil Pump or Playboi, I'll stick with Playboi Carti. Playboi Carti, to me, is one of the greatest MCs ever. You can really tell he's doing his job, because just the way he messes with his voice to make the crowd go insane. If you ever see a Playboi Carti live show, oh my god. And even, and going back to how these guys were hypocrites, even in the 90s and 80s, there were still people whose deliveries mattered over their lyricism. E40 has one of the most distinct, barely even used to this day deliveries. It's amazing. Honestly, Snoop Dogg's delivery carries him. I'm all respect to Snoop Dogg. I'm not trying to say he's a bad lyricist or anything, but his delivery is definitely what makes him big. Bone Thugs and Harmony, I think I can say the same for. Method Man, I can say the same for as well. And again, this is not to say these guys are bad lyricists. A lot of them, Method Man and Bone Thugs, are amazing lyricists. It's just their delivery is what carries them. I think Tupac has the same thing. I remember I saw an Eminem interview of him talking about how Tupac can always hit the right chord on every single beat, and that goes down to his delivery. And when it comes to delivery being the best, delivery in the new school has been better than ever. People have been changing their flows. The revolutionizing of ad-libs has really helped this delivery mindset. And yeah, just delivery over lyricism, I think the new school has it. And even then, you're like, okay, delivery, I completely disagree with you, Dan. Lyricism is what needs to be on top. Lyricists do exist in the new school. What I hate is I'll go into YouTube comment section and people will be talking about lyricists exist, but they're only underground. But that's just wrong. Kendrick, who many will quote as the best right now, is an amazing lyricist. J. Cole is an amazing lyricist. Drake is a pretty good lyricist. 2 Chainz is good. J.I.D., Denzel Curry, Ola Griselda, Conway, Westside Gunn, and Benny the Butcher, famous, good lyricists. And even then, when it comes to hip-hop, being underground to the mainstream now is different than being underground back then. Because now, since hip-hop's the #1 genre, and like NBA Youngboy is probably going to sell more on his records than Nas ever did, just for the fact that hip-hop is more famous than it was back then. But being in hip-hop, you don't need to care that someone is big in the pop medium. Like Billy Woods or Danny Brown or JPEG Mafia, who you might call underground in hip-hop. They're underground right now in the general music area. But in hip-hop, they're good, then they're the best. You don't need to measure popularity when it comes to in the culture itself. If you want to put JPEG Mafia on the top of your list, then JPEG Mafia is the best there is, and he deserves just as much in the conversation as Young Thug would. And honestly, a lot of people talk about how there's a lot more bad rappers now. There's just more rappers now. You're a rapper coming up in every single town. I live in a township in central Jersey that most people don't know about. I can name you like at least 6 rappers from my town, because everyone's doing it now. So I don't think you can blame this generation for having more worse rappers than the previous one, when we probably have like quadruple the rappers they had back then. But honestly, as I just think this, my main statement about old heads is I just believe a lot of them just don't listen to music now. They hear a few popular trap hits from maybe Lil Durk or Lil Baby, and they think, okay, this is all there is. There's nothing else. I remember all of them quote Lil Pump. They all heard Gucci Gang and thought, dang, this is exactly what hip-hop is nowadays. Let me not listen to anything else. And I think, honestly, it's just an ignorant conclusion. It's just an ignorant conclusion to make. I feel like there's a lot more they could be getting into, a lot more they could like, and they just don't seize on the opportunity to do their research. And it's funny, I think it's very hypocritical that they get mad at a lot of people now for disrespecting OGs, when in reality, a lot of hip-hop artists respect OGs now. They don't do their research on us, and I think that's very, definitely very hypocritical. But my personal views, I'm not a fan of generational hatred in general, and it happens a lot, happens all the time, and I don't think it'll ever stop. But hip-hop is hip-hop, And gatekeeping puts a divide in this amazing culture I personally call home, and it's a fucking gate that doesn't need to be there. If old heads and new heads got along, there would be a lot much more creativity, much more drive in things, and I think that it's just an ignorant opinion to have, and honestly, just we could do better. We could do better. That's all there is to it. That's about it. I would definitely I know a lot of my subscribers aren't really into this, but definitely people in the YouTube community, hip hop YouTube community, I would definitely like to hear what you guys have to say about this. I didn't write a script for this, so I hope I spoke fluid enough and didn't stutter. But either way, I should make more videos. If anyone watches this video and wants to sub, I just want to say I'm not strictly a hip hop channel. I'm gonna try to do a variety thing, and I know that doesn't get much views or subs, but anyway, yeah. So just telling you, just so you know, I'll be doing some hip hop stuff, but I'm not completely hip hop. So take that as you will. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Goodbye.